Forest Service road project plans to be presented. Wade Jerome, engineer with the Forest Service, is here. We want to look at the plans, and we'll have a discussion, some public comment, and then we'll make a decision. Okay, we'll move on or not. Jerome, you want to start us off?
Sure.
Or Wade, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You know, it works out. I'm doing this very similar to the manner in which we did it last year. I mean, there's really not much difference. Gone out, inventoried the roads to see what needs are for proper drainage, some width, firm them up in places. I've done it all by milepost. So when the Forest Service crews here or anybody that picks them up can go to the starting point, click the road there and find these locations. I've identified the length and size of culverts we need in places along, like if everybody's looking at County Road 88 Dale, far right column tells you how much gravel we need to bed culverts, do a little surfacing when we need to haul in some pit run material, and just kind of go station by station like that. There's a big statement at the top that says we're going to be doing recondition, which is clearing, grubbing, removing stumps so you can actually grade the road in locations. A lot of shaping goes on there for proper drainage too, to get a little ground on the road. And that's pretty much how.
Can you guys hear?
No. Can you use that microphone? Does that microphone work?
No, well, maybe a little bit.
Excuse me, does that microphone work here?
He's got one.
Is this one working?
Well, he can use that one.
He can use this one.
All right.
Well, fine, he can just use that one, and then he doesn't have to borrow Bill's. I'm sorry, I can open my
I'll
mouth.
speak loud.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was asked what the plans were for the roads. And last year I was here and we did this very similar project, almost identical, to be honest with you, just different locations. So I set everything up exactly the same way. The roads identified for work are laid out by milepost. I also stake those locations. It identifies which culverts are needed, where there's base needed on the road and some surfacing, and it allows me, my crew, all the operators to know where they're at, because everybody can get a copy of this and have it with them. So all roads are set up exactly the same on these spreadsheets, and I guess I would just answer any questions on any particulars that are in these if anybody had questions.
Okay, so one is bigger than the other, why don't you pass that one over?
I would just say, Wade, it might be good just to give a really quick, for the folks that are here, general, that you're just doing some reconstruction and, you know, what the overall objective is for these roads.
Okay, yeah, the overall objective is usually, it's right in the top of the spreadsheet. It's just a column that we call the treatment is common to all roads. So we're going to recondition all roads, meaning we're going to bring it back to its natural shape, or the shape it should be, with crown, ditches, ditch relief culverts, you know, the proper geometry on the road. We will brush and clear them so you have good sight distance for safety, and do any repairing of culverts that may exist that don't need replaced. A lot of these culverts on these roads seem to be really old. They have high rest lines, and a lot of them are got a lot of holes through the bottoms of them. So there is a lot of replacement going on there. And then we will clean all those inlets and outlets and armor them where needed, and you know, just do really nice, good road work through there to get them back up to a nice standard that you can drive with your vehicle.
So let me, just for our clarification, Wade, are we talking about the big spreadsheet is County Road 88, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then there, you've got one sheet on Viking Lane, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and then you've got a separate sheet on Forest Service 1558.
Yep.
Where would that be?
That's in Upper Willow Creek off of Road 88.
Oh, okay. And then you got Forest Service Road 5141?
That's correct, and that's like the Carpenter Road.
Cartbridge Road. Any questions about the locations that he's talking about? Okay. Commissioners, Do you have comments on ways?
Yeah, I'd like to start off.
You bet.
Okay, a couple of questions for the Forest Service there. If you guys were bidding this project yourself, would you do it by the hour or the project?
Well, we would be mandated at the Forest Service to do it by a contract package,
The project?
a project.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why we put this into a schedule, because we move the work forward in a much quicker manner than that allows.
Okay, is this an emergency? Is this an fire emergency, flood emergency?
It's not an emergency, but it's just that we have a certain time limit to spend those funds. So in a way, it's very time sensitive, or that money will be gone.
But it's not an emergency.
No.
Little history here, I don't know why you guys showed up, I don't know where you got, but I called this meeting, basically I complained last week because there was a bid opening by the hour for this road project. This meeting, as far as I'm concerned, isn't whether this will get done, it's just how it will get done. Okay, so first thing in the morning, last Tuesday, they're opening bids, and I thought it was bids for something else. And it happened to be per hour on this project. And I said before that I don't think that this should be bid on a per hour basis. It's not an emergency, it's not like a fire, and it should be bid by the project. Nobody gave me a chance. I was on vacation in the Middle East for 2 weeks, and I did check the internet, and I was checking the agendas and minutes, and nothing came up. Okay, so it just surprised me when here's a bid that I saw for a per hour for doing this project. And I'm going like, wait a minute, nobody told me anything. I'm part of this commission. Is that open government? I don't think so. So I objected, and that's why this meeting is here. It's not whether the project will get done, it's about open government and keeping everything up in you. So, so I think we should turn it over to the public, not make a decision until we hear what the public says.
Sure. So my recollection was a little bit different, Commissioner Hinkle's. We had the Forest Service director here, we had Cameron here, we talked about this very issue with the county road supervisor general, okay? So it was also discussed, how we bid by the hour, just like we did last year. And Paul went and got some bids. Now, we did get the bids and without the plan. And I agree with Commissioner Hinkle. We wanted to see the plan. I think that's appropriate. And so we put it back on the agenda for today to, solve that. Have the plan, have the bids, have the discussion with the public. So, county government isn't perfect. Sometimes things come in and out when, and Chuck was on vacation a little bit, and we did continue discussions while he was gone. And not his fault. So I think we're in, good stead, unless the county attorney wants to correct me.
I'd like to say something.
Sure.
Where was it in the minutes that you discussed this when I was gone? Show it to me.
The only thing I know is Paul asked, how are you gonna get the bids? Yeah,
Right, and I called
yeah, that's the only thing I know.
all local contractors and had them submit a bid in a sealed envelope to the courthouse.
So you called all the contractors?
Local contractors,
All of them?
everyone that I could think of. Did I miss any? Who did I miss?
Yeah, I think you did. You did.
Probably. Who?
Candace, for one.
Yeah.
So why wasn't advertised in the paper?
Want me to respond to that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Do you want me to give you my opinion on the law here, or what would you like to hear?
Well, if we.
We want to know if we're doing it right.
Yeah, if we're doing it right, that's what we want.
All right, so-
That's the question.
First of all, you got the federal procurement laws, you have state procurement laws, you have the county's procurement policy. Federal procurement law, they have a Forest Service make contract with the county using the cooperative agreement that we already have. So that is clear. I found the case on that. You know, no dispute in my mind, 100% clear on that, what was done there. If we wouldn't have been doing it correct, the Forest Service attorneys would have already cut this off too. But so now that you guys, the county has the contract to complete this project. You have the state procurement laws and the counties. The county's procurement policy says that there's exemption in the law, you guys can follow that exemption from bidding. Here we have 75-2304, which gives the exemption here for this project not to be bid out. Do I formally bid out? Do I be in the newspaper? Do I think it's always a good idea to put it in the newspaper? Definitely. I mean, just for the point you make there, so everyone knows about it. But now it's a political decision on whether the county commissioners want to put the newspaper, the bid in the newspaper or not, or continue forward. If you don't feel like you've contacted every local person that does this, then you may still want to do that. The federal procurement laws talk about there is a preference for locals, and so local contractors. So in concept, you are doing it correct that way. Whether you decide to put the notice in the paper is your decision, and it's always a good idea. But if you're talking about time limitations here, what are those time limitations on getting the project started?
Well, as you can see here, there's a lot of work to be done. I would have started just yesterday if we could have, at least clearing, grubbing some roads. We got to be in snow by September, and my detail over here won't get till mid-August. So, and I was brought over to manage this, and I would like to clarify that our crew that we've paid for with our equipment is working on this. So that makes it really difficult for us to bid it out as a project if we're going to use that, because that's part of the funding that we have to do this. So we're only looking to rent certain pieces of equipment for it, not the entire project. Money's to buy the culverts and the supplies from different vendors. So,
Well, these guys ain't getting a full job, they're just getting a designated piece of it.
right, exactly. And so it's a really nice partnership to be able to accomplish some really good work in the county. And it seems like it worked very well last year. And I think we got a lot accomplished for a pretty low rate of money per mile.
One thing I'd encourage here, on the agenda, it talks about the plan first. So what I encourage the commission to do is discuss the plan, and if that's acceptable to you, to do a motion on that, and then cover these other issues by motion. So I think going down the agenda the way it reads.
Okay.
I can see no reason why you couldn't do it by project, or we can't do it by project, as long as we have a plan. They're working on this roof right up here. Was it done by the hour? I don't think so. How about the roof over there? No. How about the ambulance garage? No, not by the hour. It's by the project. And this is public money, and maybe somebody in the Forest Service doesn't care how much money they spend. But I do, and some other people do. So, to do it it's just a guaranteed way to get rid of that money so you don't have to turn it back. Right? Anyway, I think that the public should speak, and this should be open and for bidding and advertised in the paper for at least 2 weeks.
So, let's take this elephant eat this elephant one bite at a time. The very first thing I would entertain a motion on accepting the plan that.
I make a motion that we accept the Forest Service road plans that we were presented to this morning.
Is there a second? I'll second it. So is there any further discussion between the commissioners?
How can you accept those road plans? I mean, I might do it, but I haven't even looked at them.
Is there questions you have?
How would I have questions when I don't have time to look at them?
I mean,
You could take a short
if you want to
recess.
take a recess and look them over, that'd be fine.
I want to hear a public speak right now.
Okay, you can do that, but there's a motion on the floor in a second. So, do you have any further comments for right now? Okay. So, there's a motion on the floor, you heard the motion, to accept the plan. So, and there's a second. So is there any public comment on the motion, just the motion? Yes. If you're,
Yep.
you want to step up to the podium?
Now you can use your mic.
Yeah. This is public comment.
Clarification, just the
You can use
motion.
that mic.
I know I can, I can't because I'm filming, so excuse me. I think people can hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Elena Gagliano, Phillipsburg. On the motion, that I just want some points of clarification. I have questions. May I ask them?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, I saw somewhere that the Granite County has a procurement policy. Is that something new, and is there a copy online?
Yes.
Okay, it's online?
It's not on, I don't think it's on.
It's not online. Okay, but I'll get one later. Secondly, clarification. Paul, Al, you said that you contacted local contractors. Is that correct?
Yep,
Okay, and that you said you got envelopes from them?
they delivered envelopes to the courthouse, they didn't give them to me.
Okay, to the courthouse.
Yeah,
When were they opened up?
they weren't open yet, I haven't seen any of them.
So they haven't been opened up yet?
They're
Wait a
here.
minute.
Yeah, they have been open, they were open.
Oh, I never
Yeah,
saw
I
it.
saw them.
Yeah,
I
they
have.
were-
I didn't.
They have them down there, he's looking, I have not.
Aren't you supposed to do that at a meeting, excuse me, aren't you supposed to do that at a meeting publicly?
We did. And
when was that?
And at that point, Commissioner Hinkle said, I don't have a plan to match these up with, and he was right, and we felt like that we ought to put it back on the agenda when we have a plan, have Wade come in and explain the plan, and so here we are today,
So when were they opened up?
last week.
Last week. Do we have the minutes for that?
Yeah,
We
we
do?
have, no, there's draft.
Right, you haven't approved them until this afternoon, so they're not available for the public, for the record. And then, so
I have
you
not
do,
seen them, but I didn't see them.
I didn't look at them and compare them either.
I never even looked at
Commissioner
them.
Hinkle said, I think. we
so you
stopped
haven't
doing
looked
that.
at them,
That's what
the
I said.
bids?
We have them.
Okay, so that's gonna be done today, now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. And I guess that's it. My point is, before you even discuss this, so you're just agreeing to the plan, and then you're gonna, how do the bidders know what the plan is? If they don't know what the plan, have a copy of the plan
They're
now?
bidding their equipment by the hour, so they know how to run their equipment and then know what those kinds of jobs are. And then they'll see the plan, work with Wade and work with Paul.
Okay, I'm not too familiar with this bidding process, but if I was a contractor, I would want an idea of what the plan was so I can bid on it, and you already have bids, and without them knowing what the plans are. It's like putting, it's like putting the cart before the horse. Thank you very much for the record.
I can just speak a little bit to that also.
Thank you.
We didn't necessarily have a mile-by-mile plan, but when the Schedule A agreement was signed in April by the commissioners and they voted on all of that, we had a rough plan similar to going off of what we did last year. So again, we were looking at the same general road reconstruction, the same type of work, the culvert installation, the ditch relief, those types of things. So it was very similar, and we did have a cost out that was all given to the commissioners, and they looked over that. So again, we didn't have a mile by mile post plan, but there was a general idea of what type of work, how many miles of road were going to be done, where the work was going to be done, that sort of thing. So it wasn't just a completely blind thing that we are asking folks for, or that they were asking folks
And
for.
I have one more question to Blaine, if I may. Blaine, you quoted Title VII, I believe, the Montana Codes Annotated.
Yes, I did.
What's the difference between Title VII and Title 18, which is the Montana Procurement Act?
What's the difference?
Right, I mean, it's a procurement, right?
Both- Yeah, both can be.
Services and equipment.
Yeah, both can be applicable to the county, but 7-5-2304 is one specific statute that applies to this case.
And that's your opinion?
Yeah, my legal opinion that I'd stake my life
Okay.
on.
Because it seems like Title 18 basically says something about it has to be published in the newspaper with certain exceptions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
7-5-2304 is the certain exception. And I'm not making a political statement, I'm making a legal statement. Whether I agree with the law or not is irrelevant.
I just didn't understand why you went over the other.
I already
thank
sent
you.
emails on it, Selena.
I know.
Why didn't you send me, why don't you ask me questions yesterday when I emailed you?
Well, I wanted to do it in public, and I told you that I would be here today to ask you.
Well, I wish you would have asked me that prior to the meeting, if you have an issue with my interpretation of the law.
No, I didn't. I just had a question of
No, I
why
don't-
you went with
I'm
one
not
or the
agreeing with
other.
that, Lena.
Thank you.
Commissioner
It
Hinkle?
looks to me like 754303, the exemptions are for emergencies. I mean, it says happening any emergency caused by fire, flood, explosion, storm, earthquake, riot, insurrection, or similar emergency, but in such case, the council may proceed in the manner in which the judgment of 3/4 of the members of the council, talking about council.
Yeah, you're talking, that's 7-5-4303, which applies to municipal government, city and county, city and town.
Why'd you give this to me?
To show you the difference between one that talks about emergencies and the statute applies to the county does not say emergency.
Well, the other one talks,
I'm not gonna debate the law with you.
I know.
Okay. But the other one says made necessary by fire or other elements. That's very much different than saying there's an emergency. There's no emergency language in that
But
statute.
they're talking, it's an emergency.
That's your opinion.
Okay, so let's get back to, there's a motion on the floor and a second, and we'd like to have public comment on the motion. So would you step up to the podium, give us your name and
Yeah, my
give us
name
your
is,
comment?
my name is Heidi Hiegel. And I guess if any one of you were building a house, wouldn't you want to take a little bit of time and look at those plans? But yes, there was a rough draft done. There could be changes in there, and I don't think he's out of order asking to look at these plans before you say yay or nay. Because in hindsight, if something happens that is wrong, then they're gonna say, oh geez, maybe we should have looked at the plans. So I think it's not out of order to take a few minutes and look at these plans to make sure that it is what you guys agree with.
Can I comment on that? We asked him if he want to take a recess and look at it.
I think it's gonna take more than a few minutes.
Well, it's just one way with voice.
So I'm just saying,
So am I.
maybe there should be a little time to look at them. Because I certainly wouldn't want to build a house or build a road or do anything. Even when I'm building a cabinet, I'm going to look at the darn plans and make sure it's done right the first time. So I'm just saying he's not out of order. Everyone looks and shakes their head like, oh, we want to just blindly accept this without even looking at it. I mean, my gosh, I wouldn't want to run my county like that.
I don't think anybody said he was out of order, so let's move on. Is there any other further public comment on the motion? Sir?
My name is Doug Benson. I did the project last year. We'd asked me to come. If there's any questions I can help with, I do have a bid in for this job. And I could bid the whole project, but it's gonna cost a lot more. It just is. I mean, it's gonna be a lot more involved. If Wade needs me hourly with the machine, that's pretty simple stuff. We can show up, do the job, get it done, and move down the road, so.
How did the project go last year?
Great.
Were there any, I mean,
Not
were you
one
asked to
hiccup.
do anything that you're not normally doing?
Not once. Putting culverts, rolling drain dips, armoring banks, pretty simple stuff. We weren't building any roads. We were pulling some stumps out, you know, pretty easy stuff. But if I can help out, I sure will. So if you want to ask about last year.
Anybody, any other public have questions?
In Paul's defense, if he did contact, I mean, it's a small valley. I've talked to all the excavators. They all know Candich is a logger, you know. He's advertised as a logger. I mean, yeah, we know he has an excavator, but he's a logger. So, I mean, I'm not trying to start.
They were just telling me of all kinds of road projects they just completed.
I'm sure they do a bunch, but in the paper, they're advertised as a logger.
And so what?
So, I mean, that's just the Paul's defense.
I mean, if you know
If
they
it said
don't know.
Candich logging and excavation, well, you might say, okay, let's call them.
We still can call.
And sure can, sure, no matter me. I like that, I like it. If they get the job, that's great, you know. If there's anything I can help with, if I can answer any questions.
Thanks, Frank.
Yep.
Is there any other public comment on the plan? There's a motion and a second. Is there any commission comment on the plan? Would the commission like to take a recess and review the plans? Scott?
It would take me all 5 minutes.
Well, I'll give you 10 minutes. How long would it take? Is there 1, 2, we've got 4, 5 pieces?
So what are we gonna do?
You want to take 23 again? All right.
There's
So-
another one too.
We're going to reconvene at 10:15, and we're going to give commissioners a minute to go over the plans and ask Wade questions.